chomde chomde de jetuen jambe yang lo ye changze lo ye kangge lo de demye tinde ro nye da ya nam da ya ras jenye tenge jeje zikira nige to kara le bam kangda ye sepe tuen da ya ma re men da ya dung a ye chi se do zo ye kun la ye pu che tar ze yen la ye zhu zhuo yang den song do da ye ke do ye nyu mo ye nye lo le ke kya do ye dong ze ji ma re me se dong a ye nye ge ye nye kun ze ra de no de ne ta jen sa ke tar sun yuan de lun zo gyao se tu be chū tāi chū tāi chū nye jen te dāg lē mē tse jiāng bē yāng lai ndu. Tse dēng kū kē kēng rāi bē sē chē dāg lē tē mō ya mē bā ya rāb sā nē. Kā dāng yāng tēng chū yuñ lō ya tō kwa ye lō tē ya pō kē nā wā ya tse tō ye sō ye. Sangye cho dang, soje cho nam la, chang cho par do ya dan ne kya sui. Da ge chu she ge be sui nam je, do la ye pen jira sangye do pa re shui. Sangye cho dang, soje cho nam, chang cho par do ya dan ne kya. Da ge chu she ge be sui nam, do la ye pen jira sangye do pa re shui. Sangye soje cho nam lai chang cho par do ya dan ne kya sui ji da ge chu she gi pe sui nam je do lai pen che sang je do pa re shu sem je ya tam je de wa ya tam de ve gyu dan ya de bre du nga ya da du nga la ke ju dan da wa re ju je du nga la me be de wa ya tam ba miền đó vào đây chưa gì nhẹ rèn chào đó nhẹ đó chào về tăng nhom chiêm bò lò nè vào đây chưa rồi chỉ xem chế tâm chế điều hòa đó để về cái đó để vào đây chứ đường nghe đó đường nghe cái chỗ đó chào vào đây chưa gì đường ala mẹ điều hòa đó bảo đó miền đó vào đây chưa gì nhẹ rèn chào đó nhẹ đó chào tăng nhom chiêm bò lò nè vào đây chưa rồi chỉ xem chia tam chia đề hòa tòng đề về gỡ tòng đề bờ đường nghe tòng đường nghe kia gỡ tòng trâu về đường nghe la mẹ bé đề hòa ya tòng bò ya tòng min ra lo vào đây nhẹ rèn chào tòng nhẹ tòng ya trâu về tăng nhom chiêm bò la nè vào đây chú rồi chỉ bảo điện sa về la ma rừng bộ chỉ đã cái kiểu cái điện la cả điện chim bò cái này chú sông điện tu cô sông thuốc chế ngô đồ sa đôi số bảo điện đồ cái trong hoa thì cái chắp đó la ma karma bò chim bò quân điện chú này xây dựng bằng cho gì đâm đồ điện nan cho mà chuyên lệ quân điện chế bò chú trọng phải chế chăm đó là nan cho cái bé chế chế đồ đồ đàn mẹ thu cái công hoa rồi. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a good night's sleep, good night flight. Not so sure, but I hope so. It's usually quite hassle to travel, especially in the winter time. God, you have to excuse me with my throat stuff. First of all, I have a very husky voice. On top of that, a lot of dust got into my throat. So, kind of a mess here. Right. So today I'll try to, you know, I'll try to teach a general things regarding the Mahamudra, which is, connected with our own lineage as well. So I have some notes. I'm not sure how, far I can get into it, but whatever I could remember vaguely, I will try to, share that with all of you. It's really, I think it's really very important to have this very general overview of what really our lineage, means. It's all about lineage. So therefore, I'll try my best to, uh, to tell you as much as I can remember or as much as I know. But as we go along the days, then I will also, I guess I will again be speaking a little bit more into those things, since it's always connected because of the nature of the teaching that that we are going to study together, which is Mahamudra. uh, so yes, and then from tomorrow, then we will go through the text itself, the root text itself. Okay, it's the Gambopa and also some of his students. There are some, very specific terms that I would like to speak on. I find that very, deep and profound and directly connected with this meaning of Mahamudra. So I'll try my best. In Tibetan, I know these terms, so it's quite easy. But when we say it in English, I'm always afraid that we lose the meaning somehow along the, road, so to speak, just because of the language itself. But I still try. So, for example, according to Tibetan, we have these three terms. Those are actually three kinds of inherent. For example, the inherent mind, referring to the inherent mind, the nature of the mind, we call it inherent mind, inherent appearance, and the inherent concept. For instance, Gambopa says that, Dharmakaya, the Buddhahood, is none than, you know, the inherent mind. What is inherent mind? Inherent mind is none other than the union of luminosity and emptiness. But we will be talking a lot on that. So that is the Dharmakaya, so inherent mind. Basically, mind is the Buddha, correct? Besides mind, there really is actually nothing really exists. We'll talk more on that, but I want to stick to this. We call Semni Lenchik Cheva, which means, it actually means the inborn, inherent nature of the mind. So, inborn, inherent nature of the mind is the Mahamudra, which is union of emptiness and luminosity, just for the sake of it. So that's the Dharmakaya. Then the second term, which is, the inborn, inherent appearance, Nangwa, appearance. When we become Buddha, that actually manifests as let's say, Sambhogakaya, the form of the Sambhogakaya. So we could say that the foundation for Dharmakaya is the inborn, inherent nature of the mind. The foundation for Sambhogakaya is the inherent, inborn appearance, which is directly connected to the first one. And then we have the third, term, which is the inborn, inherent concept. Tibetan we call it namtok. Excuse me. And now you can see that that is very much the foundation of the manifestation of Nirmanakaya. And all of these three aspects of the Buddha, be it Nirmanakaya, be it Sambhogakaya, be it Dharmakaya, they are all essentially born from the mind itself, the inherent, the inborn nature of the mind, so to speak. So therefore, the everything, okay, uh, the practice, whatever we practice, or the practice is the mind, and the practitioner is also the mind. Besides the mind, there is no practice. And besides the mind, there is no practitioner. And at the same time, such thing as the practice and the practitioner inherently doesn't exist. That's called, how we go beyond the, fixation of subject and object. But for the sake of path, I should say, we say that. For example, Shantideva, in his book Bodhicharya Avatara, which chapter is that? I think chapter 5, perhaps. He, in detail, explains how the everything is mind, from samsara to the enlightenment to the practice. And like, for example, the six, perfections. He points that out. There is this line that says, for instance, the suffering that beings in the hell realm go through, which is heat. He says, who created that, that surface of the fire, let's say, right? Something like that. Nobody went there and created it. Where does it come from? It does not, there isn't really a physical world where you could go and be born in there physically. Then how it is born? He says that that's very much the manifestation of your own, karma. In this case, a very heavy negative emotion. When it manifests, you experience that in the form of that very particular realm, let's say the hell realm, whether it is hot or cold. Besides your mind, such thing doesn't exist. Likewise, in the, what's that, the hungry ghost realm, animal realm, our own realm, all everything, from Devachan to the hell realm, they are nothing but, an aspect of the mind actually. For example, Chandrakirti in Madhyamika Avatara, he says that says that mind created the outer universe as well as the inner sentient beings. All of the sentient beings and their abode, meaning their universe, is the manifestation of their karma. But besides their mind, there is no karma. And besides that, there is no universe. Therefore, everything is manifestation of one's own mind. Yes, we say that everything's karma, but karma is manifestation of our own emotions. Good, bad, ugly, positive, negative, all of that is manifestation of that. In short, really everything's mind, whether you call it samsara or nirvana or hell or heaven, it's pretty much the same thing, but they are just named after we sort of, you know, uh, uh, we, think from the universe point of view when we say hell and heaven. But in reality, it's not from the universe or physical world point of view, correct? It's actually from the point of view of what you experience. What are they experiencing exactly? It's named after their pain, suffering, let's say hell, so to speak, correct? It's actually named after their pain, their suffering. If you say, I'm going through hell, there is not, it doesn't mean you are one of the hell being, but it actually mainly what are you really saying? You're not saying that you are in the hell, actually. You are saying, I'm going through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. We very much know that, and yet we don't know that. Likewise, I'm in heaven, you say this. Why do you say that? Because you have a quite good state of the mind. Let's say you have some joy, and then you immediately say, well, I'm in heaven. You're not in heaven, actually. It's all manifestation of our emotions, happiness, joy, pain, suffering. But yes, it is unfortunately, it is very true that in these lower realms, the pain and emotions are constant. It's totally constant, uninterrupted. Therefore, from what we understand, they don't even have a moment of joy. So that's why we say that. But in our human realm, it's not, the case. It's very much mixture of everything, all the emotions we go through. So we should actually be able to know that, so to speak. So now we know that how everything is mind. uh, yes, I have something here which I wanted to share actually. Okay, so now coming back to Mahamudra, uh, I had this thing. Actually, third Kamapa in his, Mahamudra book, he also says that, according to Tibetan, he says that you are, migrating through samsara simply because you have not yet realized the nature of the mind. Once when you realize the nature of the mind, then there is no Buddha besides that, so to speak. So it's, for example, Milarepa says the same thing. He says it's very easy actually. Oh, I'm sorry. I told you it goes there. So Milarepa also says the same thing. Like he says, samsara is, when you don't have the realization that your own mind is Buddha. That's what you call samsara or sentient beings. And then when you really gain the realization of the nature of the mind, then that will be, the enlightenment. So besides our mind, really there is nothing. That's why early on I said that, uh, when we call practicing the Dharma, besides the mind, there is really nothing to practice, correct? It is very much, and there is no practitioner besides the mind, so to speak. So that's why it's, everything really, especially in Buddhism, we know that Buddhism is really all about mind. And especially when it comes to the Mahamudra, then it is always about, it's more about than the, true nature of the mind, right? Ultimate nature of the mind, so to speak. So yes, this is why then the uh, it should not be so very difficult for us to really understand, you know, understand what is Mahamudra in reality, correct? But yet, because of our confusion, because of our ignorance, we lack that realization actually. Otherwise, there is no reason for us to really be in samsara at all in reality. And yet we are here. It's simply because of misconception, because of lack of wisdom, I would say. So that's why the wisdom became so important, the accumulation of the wisdom. Again, Shantideva says, many other teachers say, but Shantideva says that too. If you want to really overcome your suffering, then you must accumulate, you know, wisdom. If you want to end your suffering, you must accumulate your wisdom. uh, so that wisdom is actually, the, let's say, the inborn nature of the mind, the luminous nature of the mind, so that it is only and only through, you know, wisdom that we can very properly, really, maintain, let's say, our life, and also one can very precisely then gain the realizations as well, correct? It's about two things in this case. Whenever we say samsara, it's actually all about ignorance. It comes down to ignorance. Why is there samsara? It's because of the confusion, the ignorance, marikpa in Tibetan we call it. And on the other hand, there is the wisdom, correct? Simply two things. As of now, I am caught up in the ignorance and the confusion that it creates. I see that as a reality. I experience that as a reality, which is not a reality, you know. So as soon as it's like darkness and sunshine, we can say that, you know. So as soon as there is some glimpses of sunlight, then it has the power to really remove the darkness. Likewise, when you have some very, little glimpses of wisdom, like I was saying yesterday, it has that power, to really overcome the confusion within us and then help us with really to figure out the actual source of our pain. What is the actual source of our suffering, our pain, our karma? It again boils down to our mind, actually. But that mind is called the confused mind, correct? A confused mind, ignorant, confusion oriented mind. That is it. And we dwell in that. So when you dwell in that, we naturally will experience, pain, suffering, all of that. Because we are dwelling in the confusion, in the ignorance. So therefore, now on the other hand, then the wisdom, right? The wisdom, the vipassana we call it, the pragyana paramita. Anyway, pragyana is a good word. Share up, share up, yeah, the insight into the reality. So this, it's really about that actually. Like again, third Karmapa Rangjung Dorje says in his Mahamudra, if you remember, uh, he talks about what we call as the four things. He talks about the ground of purification, which means the ground of obscuration. So what is the ground of obscuration according to him? Jiangji, Semni, Saltong, Sungju. Okay, so that means the we can say the ground Mahamudra as well. Actually, we have the ground Mahamudra, the path Mahamudra, and the result Mahamudra. This is the ground Mahamudra, meaning the fundamental Mahamudra. What is that? That is none other than the true nature of the mind, which is union of luminosity and emptiness. Jiangji, Semyi, Saltong, Sungju. Saltong, Sungju, Salwan, Tongba, so union of emptiness and luminosity. That actually means you are going to study, but some of you may have already, learned the Buddha nature mind, the Uttara Tantra Shastra, which Khenpo Chocho will teach. When we talk about Buddha nature mind, there are two, actually quite many, but generally two, the naturally abiding Buddha nature mind. This is the naturally abiding Buddha nature mind, actually. When he says that, meaning the meaning that all of our confusion, the ignorance, the base of that is very much our true nature of the mind, this inborn, inherent, luminous and emptiness nature of the mind. That's very much it. Or you can say Dharma Dhatu in short. It is that base. So, and then the second ground, so that is the ground. And then now when we speak of the what the obscuration that are to be removed, correct? Second obscuration to be removed. Then Karmapa says the temporary advantageous obscurations. I like this term very much. That's why I'm trying to say it in English too. In Tibetan, we have called lobur chitima. Lobur actually meaning something that comes and goes, which is very, very temporary and is not constant. Comes and goes and comes. So lobur. Tima meaning obscuration. Again, in this very book of the Buddha Nature Mind, the Uttara Tantra Shastra, there is this very beautiful line actually. I'm saying it in Tibetan, because in English there's so many versions, so I can exactly remember that. He says that the inherent true nature of the mind, which is luminous and emptiness, is like a space that is unchangeable. These temporary obscurations that are born from misconceptions do not have the power to obscure it, do not obscure it actually. And I like that very much. Yang da minto lechung timasu lobu timite nyumo minjo. For example, the I, you know, have the Buddha nature mind. I'm going to give my own example. At the same time, I have all the emotions, correct? And they very much coexist as of now. But at the same time, I also will become Buddha. So when I become Buddha, then what happened to these obscurations? You know, they just simply and permanently go away because of the because of the manifestation of my that wisdom. So they no longer now are there, no longer exist, and they no longer can affect me in at all in any capacity. So that goes to prove that, although, like Kamapa says, that there's a ground, which is the true nature of the mind, and yet there are those obscurations coexisting as of now. So the obscurations are the one that we need to deal with, that we need to really, remove. But we do not need to do anything regarding the nature of the mind. There's no need at all, actually. It's all about removing the whole path. It's all about overcoming of one single thing. That's actually ignorance. And everything that ignorance, created, confusion wise. So our emotions actually, clinging, all of that, right? That. So then again in the Kamapas, I'm explaining Kamapas. So then what are the antidote? Okay, we understand that there is Buddha nature mind, inherent Buddha nature mind. But because of ignorance, we don't really realize that. So that all we experience, all we see is very much the ignorance. So now the question is, what can we do about it? What are the method? Are there any method? Then the answer is yes, there is a method. There is actually a very good method. So the method, like Kamapa says in Rangjung Dorje in that book, the method actually, okay, simply put, the method is none other than the Mahamudra path. So the Mahamudra path here are, for example, simply put, it means, 6 dharmas, which we will, be speaking. I will explain later on, but right now, the 6 dharmas. Or you can say 6 yogas or narupa, but it's simply we always say 6 dharmas actually. Chodu, Chotok, 6 dharmas of narupa. It doesn't really belong to narupa, but it's just a way how we say it. 6 dharmas of gambupa, 6 dharmas of niguma. Anyways, we'll come to that later on. Vajra, Mahamudra, Vajra Dharma is the term you have in the Kamapa's book. Dorje, anyways. So, in simple words, it means when we so the method that can help us to overcome all that obscuration from the Vajrayana point of view and from the Mahamudra point of view, then the path is really the 6 yogas or any one of them, all of them, well, 6 dharmas, okay? That's it. So when we do that practice, then it comes to the result, correct? So then he speaks about the result. Then as a result of that, what we really experience is the Chagchen, we call the great Mahamudra actually. Great Mahamudra is the result. It's not actually the path, it's not anything, but it is the result itself. All right. So the okay, there are a few other things that I would like to share since we talk about. um, when we talk about like Mahamudra, not Mahamudra, but the, yeah, Mahamudra, let's say, there are actually four kind, okay? The, in Tibetan, the first one is called, Chuchi Chagya. That means the Mahamudra of Dharma, we can see. Simply put, it means Dharma Mudra, Chuchi Chagya. Let's see, Chuchi Chagya. What is that Dharma of Mahamudra? Here it says, the inseparable nature of emptiness and appearance is termed as, I like that very much. It actually is spoken from the point of view of Dharma Dhatu, correct? Dharma Dhatu. Dharma in Tibetan Che is not the practice. Dharma here means existence, you know. And when we gain it was just like earlier on when I spoke about, the inborn, inherent appearance. Remember, inherent, inborn, inherent appearance. When the wisdom is born in you, the ultimate wisdom is born in you, we become free from this fixation of the phenomena, existence of the phenomena, absolutely free from that. That kind of realization is named as, Dharma of Mahamudra of the Dharma, or realization of Dharma, but we call Chuchi Chagya. Chuchi Chagya meaning mudra, but it's not the hand mudra, but mudra of the Dharma. So first one, I'm trying to plant some seed. Okay, so that's the first one. We just stick to simple things. Now the second one is we call tamsik. Saltong sungju. Samaya, the mudra of the Samaya, tamsik. Here, according to the definition, then it says it refers to the, you know, uh, the union of luminosity and emptiness. Tamsik kichagya. Okay, so the second mode. This, okay, I'll first finish this thing. And then there is something called, the third one is, actually in third there are two. Um, uh, because of two kinds of practitioner. uh, the uh, the Lechichagya. Okay, this one is well, straightforwardly, it actually means the Mahamudra of activity. But actually, it means, we have something called the uh, uh, when one, you know, is on a very high level of Mahamudra realization like Tilopa and Naropa, then eventually they need to attend a consort, so to speak. But it's not from the physical point of view, so to speak, right? So this is uh, Lechchagya, Kama Mudra, but that word is not very, I guess people can really misinterpret that, so I didn't want to say that. But actually, it does mean that, but from a very different point of view. All right, so now those who are ordained people, then you can't attend a consort. So then we have something called the wisdom, Chagya. The wisdom mudra, okay, the wisdom mudra. that actually is more of the, okay, anyway, I think I should not go too much into detail about this. What that meant is that when we speak of the nature of the mind early on, there's this very specific qualities, for example, emptiness, uh, then luminous, and bliss. It's very much combination or inseparable. There are these four we could say inseparable qualities of the mind: emptiness, wisdom, appearance, and the bliss. The bliss. So that in order to achieve that, these method, these are method, different methods. These three are method. With the practice of these three, then we come to the fourth one. So the fourth one is called Chagchen, the great Mahamudra, so to speak. Okay. Anyways, I just wanted to, you know, share these terms with all of you so that I plant some seed in you as well as in myself. But I myself do not know much about this, so if you have any questions, I won't be able to answer that regarding these four stuff. So you may not ask any question regarding these three stuff. I'll just saying it because I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that. Now, again, I have to remind you not that these are all connected to Vajrayana. The Vajrayana path is really simple. There are just two things in reality. That is the one, which is the empowerment. And then the other thing is meditation, so to speak. Well, in generally, we speak about three: Wang, Long, Ti, so to say. So I will also say all of these three. Wang, empowerment of any yidam. In this case, they are the empowerment of the, for example, higher yidams of the chakra samvara, hivajra, all of that. And then long will be the oral transmission. We very much need that. Chi is the most important. Instruction. Instruction is the heart of the practice. And that instruction consists two things: kerim and zogrim, right? The curation phase, and then the exhaustion. I like the word exhaustion. We say dissolving phase. Exhaustion is also good. Any exhaustion phase, zogrim. These two, it comes down to this. All of this in the Mahamudra, the six dharmas, all of that are actually directly, if I understand it correctly, are directly connected with the Dzogrim, actually. That's why they are considered so very important, so very profound. Not considered, they are very profound. Okay, we are all discussing this, whatever I'm saying. I apologize if I had made mistakes. We are all hearing it only as a blessing, okay? So when we receive that empowerment, now our job, our practice is really to, accomplish that with the help of that very particular yidam, whichever it may be. So the absolute way of recognizing the true nature of the mind is only and only through the Dzogrim, the exhaustion part. But in the Dzogrim, sometimes they speak of this sort of, divide it into two categories. For example, the conceptualized Dzogrim and the non-conceptualized Dzogrim, we call it. The non-conceptualized Dzogrim is the Mahamudra state of the mind, actually. Okay, 6 yogas or 6 dharmas, you know, are actually, as I was saying early on, they are Dzogrim, but there is this touch of conceptualization to them. And then comes the perfection, so to speak. Again, like I was saying, it's just, you know, for the sake of the blessing. So you do not need to stress yourself to think that, I didn't understand this or I understood that. It doesn't really matter, actually. Okay? So don't worry about anything, any of these things. In general, why worry actually at all? You're not here to worry. We are here to share our wisdom, to learn something. You always learn something, but it is not possible to understand, to realize everything on the spot. It's impossible. So don't stress yourself. Sometimes you have this habit, like I need to. You can't, and you won't be able to do that. Let me be very, very blunt. But eventually you would. I'm very sure eventually you would. You will, eventually, given that you stick to the path. I think I'm a little bit tricky, but that's actually being very true. When it comes to the Dharma, it's very important to be very honest, to be very sincere. Like I was saying yesterday, you can't really fool people. You can't just, say just to make someone happy. Dharma, that's actually not the right thing to do. Anyway, so I don't want to be, excuse me. So I have something here that, okay. All right, so, oops. All right, now uh, that was a very brief, I don't know how well I did, but introduction into the definition of Mahamudra. Okay, but of course we are going to in the book Tilopa's teaching is really about the view of we will come to now that, so then we can stick to that. But here, like I was saying earlier on, now I want to, the Mahamudra, what's that actually, lineage, I think. Lineage of the Mahamudra. What is the practice that we as a Kajupa do is none other than the 6 dharmas of Gambopa, correct? I'm sorry, the Naropa or Tilopa or Niguma, all of that actually. That is our practice, so that's the Dharma Ka. And the Gyut meaning lineage. Now there are two, the separate lineage of the six dharmas, and then the Mahamudra lineage, correct? So now the Mahamudra, how did it come about? For example, there actually are many different viewpoints, but we are sticking to one, okay? From the common point of view, common as most of the great scholars, they agree on this, that it came, the one who gave the teaching on the Mahamudra was none other than Vajradhara itself in the form of, Sambhogakaya. And then Vajrapani or Guhayapati. So Guhayapati. We call Changna Dorje, Sangvi Dakpo. Guhayapati Sangvi Dakpo meaning the one who holds the secret mantra yana teaching. He is the Guhayapati. Sangve Dakpo was appointed by Vajradhara to preserve the Vajrayana teachings. That's why his name Guhayapati, meaning the one who holds the secret Mantrayana teaching. Now, it is believed that, Guhayapati is also known as Vajrapani as well. He then gave these talks. In Tibetan, we call it Ujjain. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere in between Bangladesh and Pakistan and all that stuff, or somewhere over there. It used to be India, but now no. Odiyana, somewhere I read Odiyana, maybe it is that. But in Tibetan, we call Ujjain. Like, we have the very famous, what is that, Guru Rinpoche, 7-line prayer of the Guru Rinpoche, Ujjain Yujjain of Jansam. Some of you may know that. Anyways, that place, the Ujjain actually, we call it, Odiyana, I guess. I really don't know the name now, but it is somewhere in Pakistan and Afghanistan, not Bangladesh, I'm sorry, Afghanistan and Pakistan and somewhere. Okay, so now coming back to that actually used to be the, place where all the Mahasiddhas hung around. They would hang around there all the time. This is why the Ujjainpa, the great Mahasiddha from the third Kamapa and the second Kamapa, he decided to go to Ujjain and he went there. Anyways, another story. So it is also said that that country or that place, it was also the dwelling place of all the wisdom dakinis, all the wisdom dakinis. If I remember correctly, it is said that every single people in that, reached the level of Mahasiddhas. There were no one who was ordinary being. 3 times, actually. That's how I remember it. I wish it's the same right now, no, actually. But anyways, it's very true. So then, of course, from these wisdom dakinis, we also Ishiji Kandoma, so I'm saying wisdom dakinis. And then they spread it everywhere. And that's how Saraha, actually, he came upon, I guess, many or some of these great dakinis, wisdom dakinis, and he heard from them. So then it, as we know, Saraha's Doha, we call Doha meaning the songs of the realization of the great Siddhas. Doha, there are 3 of them. One for common people, one for the king, one for the queen. Actually, that's how it's actually explained. 3 Dohas are there. And they are just straight from the heart, actually. It's very striking. When you read those, it's very striking. It strikes you like a thunderbolt. So you need to have a good heart. Otherwise, you may not be able to bear it. It's very true. You need a very strong heart in order to absorb the Vajrayana teaching. Okay? It's not a child's play at all. So you need that. Anyways, so then it becomes very easy. Most of you know that. Then Saraha, because Saraha, he went all over the place and he, sang his songs everywhere. From Shara, of course, Saraha, then Nagarjuna, from Nagarjuna to his own disciple Sharipa. There are many, but those are names that's mentioned, Sharipa. As we all many of you may know that one of the places that Nagarjuna lived for a very, very long time is actually in south of India. It's in, nowadays it's called Nagarjuna Konda. I was there. The actual Nagarjuna Konda is in a valley. I was told in the 70s it was still a valley. But then they made this big dam, not God dam, but big dam, river dam. And now it's the whole valley is water actually. And then before they did that, they made a replica of this place on top of the mountain actually. I did go there, but I was really, touching the water, praying in the boat. And when I went to the mountain, I didn't feel it. But when I was crossing the valley is very beautiful. It's because of my own, because even as a kid, we hear these things all the time. So now, then there is this, emotional bond with all these crazy people. So even if you don't see it, you still see it. For example, when I go to Nalanda, it's same. When I go to, well, anywhere, everywhere, but Nalanda really, I feel like I sense them. Of course, I know it's not true, but I feel like I sense, all of these teachers because I've been mentioning them almost my entire life and hearing them entire life. Like when I go to Rajgir, for example, really it sort of feels like everything dissolves, and then there's the whole picture of presence of almost like time traveling, to the Buddha's time. In Tibetan, we have a word called pakcha, no? Pakcha. It's called habitual tendencies in English, but pakcha, that samskara is very strong. When the pakcha is very strong, it has the power to do that. Everything we see around is pakcha actually, meaning habitual tendency. So the habitual tendency, anyway, so coming back to, and so in Tibetan, we call that place, Palchiri. It means Shri Parvati. Nowadays, I don't think they call it that at all. Shri Parvati. Palchiri meaning the fortunate mountain. I guess that's how you can translate that. So he really lived there a very long time along with his disciple Aryadeva. And Shawaripa also lived there quite a long time. But Nagarjuna's life story is way too long and anyways. So it came down to that. And then from Shawaripa, and then now we know that this was actually around the time when Marpa was visiting Naropa in Nalanda Institute. Back in time, in India, there were, oh, do you hear it? Because this, okay. Back in India, there were few very, very well-known Buddhist institutes. One of them, Nalanda Institute, which is where, you still can see it, you can visit it. The ruins are still there. If you go to Bodh Gaya this time, the Molam, then you should really visit Bodh Gaya and not Bodh Gaya, Nalanda and Rajgir. Anyways, and then there is the other one, which is the Vikramashila. Still, there is a ruin, but it's not as well known. Before that, actually, I think before Nalanda and Vikramashila Institute, in India, there used to be this one very famous institute, university, but this was, everybody studied there from, Hindus to Buddhism. It's called Takshashila actually, which is now in the border of Pakistan and I think it's in Pakistan, should be in Punjab, somewhere in Punjab and Pakistan. It's called Takshashila. It doesn't exist. Also, Indians know that because it is very, very famous institute and very famous Indian scholar came out of there. It's linked with the story of the grandfather of Ashoka. Chandragupta. Okay, I should not go into those things. Chandragupta, actually. And then also there is another very well known. I'm thinking Vikramasila Institute, focused more on Tantra is what I understood. So, for example, like Metipa, Atisha, Naropa, they shared their talks. Again, they traveled between these two institutes. There's also another institute called Somapuri. So Tilopa, for example, after he got all of his teachings and all that, then for 12 long years, he did that practice in this institute called Somapuri, so to speak. Anyhow, so yes, Marpa. So when Marpa was traveling to India, and he went there 3 times, and all in all, he attended Naropa, Metipa, Kukuripa, all the great masters, and he spent altogether 16 years actually, 8 years, 8 years, and in the end 7 months actually. The third one was 7 months because Naropa says to Marpa the second time when Marpa was returning back to Tibet that he needs to come again one more time because he needs to give him something that he has not got yet, but which is the most important thing ever. So he says, you must come back. Then Marpa at one point remembers that and then he comes back. It turns out Naropa has already passed away. Since I told the story, so I should tell because it's short. So Naropa looked everywhere, Pulahari, and he could not find who? I'm sorry, Marpa looked everywhere, but he could not find Naropa. But then one fine day, we call it Tangnang, in the pure vision, then Naropa did appear to him. And this was when Naropa, I'm saying the right name, right? Naropa then gave him this teaching on Powa, actually. Actually, it was Powa Tongju. More than Powa is Powa Tongju. Says that Naropa and from Metipa, Marpa received particularly the Mahamudra teachings. It's Metipa Mahamudra teachings. And both Metipa and Naropa appointed him as the, we could say ambassador actually, of the Buddha Dharma in Tibet. That's how we call it actually. The holder of the Vajrayana teaching. We have this very beautiful term in Gyaltsab, yes, actually ambassador or representative, so to say. Anyways, so the other things. uh, so in short, this is how okay. And then now you can see that how our lineage actually. So from the Marpa, then it's quite easy to know, Milarepa, and to Gambupa, and to all of their disciples. That's how there's one lineage, which is the lineage of the Mahamudra was passed on. It's only about the Mahamudra teachings. So when we say Ka Ju, that Ka is the Mahamudra as well as actually 6 dharmas, which I'm going to now, lineage of that. They're very, common people, but still I'm going to explain that. And the Jupa meaning the lineage of that, correct, Kajupa. This Kajupa is all of the Kajupas, the four, the 4 main Kajupa and the 8, branch Kajupas, all of us. Every Kajupa, our practice is very much that. Our goal is, the Mahamudra, and the practice are the 6 dharmas, so to say. Now, regarding the 6 dharmas, actually, okay. So I need to be very precise, so therefore I have this correct. The 4 lineage of the 6 dharmas. Tilopa, there are these 2 different version, we could say, regarding the Tilopa, how he got this, instructions. One, the first one, he says, actually, he says it himself. He says that I do not have any human teacher. My teacher is Vajradhara himself. In Tibetan, we have something called lineage-wise, we call the direct lineage, so to speak. So he got it directly from Vajradhara is how we understand that. But in the common eyes of the common being, that doesn't really work. So therefore, then he says that commonly I have 4 teachers. According to the common history, it is said that Naropa, Tilopa received these, instructions from these instructions on what? On the 6 dharmas. Okay, first, where do you find the 6 dharma? Correct. It's actually scattered, like in the Hevajra, in the Chakra Samvara, Guhaya Samaja, Father Tantra, Mother Tantra, in short. Okay, so it's very scattered. That means he need to have the oral transmission and the empowerment of all of these higher Vajrayana deities, like for example Chakra Samvara, Hivajra, Guhaya Samagya, Mahamaya, Kalachakra, all of that. These are also the names of the yidams. This is what it meant, okay, when we see, it's not like they taught him this only 6 stuff. No, actually. It's way more than that. Therefore, he needed this. It's not very easy to find who actually would have these, oral transmissions. It's very, very difficult to find. That's why he had to travel to every part of the India, is how we say it, to the south, to the north, to the east, to the west. In Tibetan, we say that actually. And then he managed, he meaning Tilopa managed. So these are some of the main individuals from whom he got these instructions. So that's what he says here. For example, so the one of the great master from whom he got the oral instructions and teachings on the first dharma or yoga of Naropa, which we call Tumo, the heat, was actually a great Mahasiddha called Krishna Acharya. Okay, so we have to keep it simple. And then from Nagarjuna, he got the instructions on illusory body and the luminosity, so 2 of them. And Lavapa, the great Mahasiddha Lavapa, he got instructions on dream yoga. We call Ni, so dream yoga. And then from this wisdom Dakini, Kalpa Zangmo, in Tibetan we call it Kalpa Zangmo. And here is a Sukha Siddhi. There's many secret female enlightened beings, Mahasiddhas. Some of them would not appear actually. So very few of them would appear. So one of the very few is like, Niguma, Sukhasiddhi. There's some others also. So here it says Sukhasiddhi. So from Sukhasiddhi, he got 2 of them, which is the Bardo and the Poa, the transmission of that. Again, I'm So that pretty much actually includes all of them. So we have the heat, illusory body, luminosity, dream yoga, bardo, pova, 6. And then matangi, pova tungju. Matangi, again, another a great Masida, like I was saying early on, this pova tungju thing. So some of you or many of you may have already heard about these stories about it's not just Powa, it is Powa, but it's called Powa Tungju, where one would directly transfer one's consciousness into the body of another, another recently deceased individual, and then they just come back. But there are many stories about Tungju, very fascinating stuff. Some other day. Kamal, Kamalishila. Kamalishila was a very handsome guy. So he was somewhere in, well, he did, one time he found this body, just a body that has just kind of died. And then he did Tungju, okay, to that person. He was going to help that person. Anyways, short, just for the sake of the fun, I'm actually telling this. And then when he did that, then his own body was there, correct? This very handsome person was sitting in meditation. There was another person who knew Poa Tongju, who was not very good looking guy. He decided to do Poa Tongju in Kamalishila's body. We tell that story. I don't know if it is a true story or we just made it up, but that's the story we tell. When he comes back, it's like, oops, my body is nowhere to be found. But he eventually did find it back. That's, I guess, this Masida, they have good humor, a sense of humor also. Enlightened beings are also can be funny, actually. But they are, very ultimately funny, in their own ways. We kind of think they are very serious and, with very long face. In reality, actually, we are the one who is always with the long face. Don't you think that? Always long face. Always sad, whatever it may be sad. Why, actually? And okay. So, Marpa, so after Marpa got that Poatongju from whom? From Naropa. So he, yeah. Actually, now I have to remember, that's why I'm taking time. Marpa's son, Tarmandode, Marpa decided to make his son Tarmandode the lineage holder of the Powatongju. So he taught him Powatongju, okay? And he accomplished that, just like that. Now, one day, it was Marpa or Gambopa. I mixed up those two. Marpa, yes. Either it was Marpa or, well, the one who got all this instruction, of course, was Marpa, no mistake with that. But what I'm about to tell, either it was Marpa or Gambopa. So one day there was this very, elderly woman who had a yak that had just died. And she could not pull it. Yaks are huge. And then either Marpa or Gambopa, okay, says to he had, his friend says, go and tell her that we will bring it to her. So don't worry about it. Okay. And then Marpa, let's just say Marpa if it is Gampopa, okay, says, you need to watch my body because in Tibet, eagle is all over the world. I have to tell you, back in time, they just throw the bodies into the jungle and eagles would take care of that. It's very true. So there was no cremation, or anything. They just, okay, he's dead, just throw it away. I don't think they just throw it too far away. Everybody lived out in the nature, correct? So that's why Marpa said, you stand here, you watch my body. So Marpa goes into the meditation, and then the yak stands up. The yak walks all the way to the doorstep of that lady. And then when the yak, collapses, Marpa comes out from his meditation. And actually, Marpa says, even though I was there just for like few seconds in that body, I still felt the obscuration. It's that thick, actually, it's that thick. Anyway, the Powatongju stuff. Then, all right, I guess I shall tell that too. So it is very unfortunate that Powatongju could not be spread in Tibet the way how Marpa wanted actually. Marpa actually says that. So as most of you know that Marpa's son, Dharmandode, actually died in a horse race or somewhere, and then I'm making it very short. And then Marpa, because his skull was just completely broken. Then Marpa says, oh son, you have this power of Powatongju. Now is the time to transfer your consciousness into another being. So he finds a body, but that body was not appropriate. And then he looks, then Marpa says, oh, there is this one, I guess, pigeon. Marpa says, there's a pigeon that has just passed away. And then you do the Powatongju to the pigeon. So he does the Powatongju to the pigeon. And then the pigeon has to fly. That's the story we tell. All the way to India, actually in Rajgir. There is this channel ground we called Silvathal. It's the name of this. Silvathal meaning the peaceful graveyard, the peaceful graveyard. Marpa says, in peaceful graveyard, Silvathal, just now a boy had died. So you could do poa to that. This is the story we tell. So he flies, and there's a long story to tell. Anyways, and then that's why actually it's named as Tepupa. Anyways, later on, Milarepa sends Rechungpa to India when he becomes his disciple to India, to get this transmission from actually that great master, Marpa's son, Dharmadode. But he's no longer called Dharmadode. Anyway, these are some, just for the sake of planting the seed. Some of you may have heard this many times. So Marpa does say that. I'm not so very sad that my son has passed away. More than that, it's so very unfortunate to the Tibetan people. They could have become enlightenment without dying. But now that opportunity is no longer there because of, what happened to his son. So it's karma, of the Tibetan people, but I guess in general everybody, but we say the Tibetan people did not have that karma, is what we say. And I guess, okay, just the way how it is actually. So, okay, let me check if I missed out anything. I just wanted to, don't worry about not remembering. Myself, I don't remember everything, but in the Now then it comes to our Kajupa lineage. So now I guess you now really know actually, what is this Kajupa lineage is all about. It's actually about that. We all know that then from Naropa, well, Tilopa, Naropa, then Marpa, then Milarepa, then Gambopa. But then Gambopa had these four great, you know, students from where the four main Kaju school came about. And then the, you know, Mahamudra, we call it. I'm not going to mention all of that. I guess it's just maybe a little bit too much to remember. Gampopa had these three very close disciples. We call, I guess they were all Kampas. We call three Kampa person. I think three Kampa person. They were all from Kam. Kamapa first to Sumchempa. Actually, Kamapa to Sumchempa was called Kampa Use, means the gray hair Kampa. I guess his hair was all gray, like mine. Kampa Use. And then Pamutupa, Paktu, Lodi Jalpo, and then Lama Shang, called Shang Tsalpa. They were all very naughty, actually. they, because they kind of became Masida, I'm thinking. So they started breaking a little bit of the rules that Gamboba set up. uh, it's very well known story, so many of you may know that, and uh, there's actually a song, quite famous song regarding three of them. uh, so because of that, then Gampopa had to scold them, had to sort of almost kick them out, so to speak. So there's this story about how they, decided to go away, and then how Gambopa convinced them to stay. So there's this long, songs between this Gambopa and the three Kampa person. Kamapa Tusum Chempa. Anyway, so it's actually Kamapa Tusum Chempa, then Pamutupa, then Shang Tsalpa Lama Shang, and then Barumpa Tharma Wangchuk. Those are the three individuals from where these three Kaju, they're named after that, Kaju lineage happened. And then the eight, it's too much to talk about. But in short, then, that's how our lineage is established. The blessings of the lineage comes around. I am trying to, or, uh, establish, or I'm trying to really sort of uh, share what is the actual practice of our lineage. This is why it was kind of, needed to explain all of that. So to say, from that point of view, we are really very fortunate because, we still have the unbroken lineage all the way from, we could say all the way from Dorjichang, correct? To all the Karmapas, and then of course to the 17th Karmapa, and then it will continue on from, and all the Shamarpas, all of them. Sometimes it's amazing, no? You meet these people, still, and they are here present. Many of us, we have met with Shamramachi, and then, of course, I'm talking about the, I hesitate. Anyways, so yes, we are very fortunate, and to be in the presence of actually many great scholars, many, not just in our lineage, but in other lineages too, really. uh, so, like, okay, another thing today I'm going to say something very much in general. Yesterday I did mention that, the ground of our path, our realization, our Buddhahood, our, for example, from the Mahayana point of view, we really, first of all, renunciation is must, and then bodhicitta is must, and then of course the view. We have three things. We call it, the Ngenjong, Changsem, Yang Tapitawa. So Ngenjong would be the renunciation. How do you gain renunciation? You gain renunciation by having a very, very good understanding of actually of the four thoughts that turns your mind away from samsara, correct? uh, in the Ngondo practice, you remember in the Ngondo practice, we have the four common, Ngondo. So the four common meaning it's a common ground for all of the practitioners, from the Hinayana to the Mahayana to the Vajrayana. And those it's are these four kinds of realization, four kinds of knowledge and wisdom we need. The meditation is very, very strong and it helps one to actually overcome attachment to this world, to samsara, to the mundane thing. It's not about abandoning them. It's really about becoming free from attachment to the mundane samsaric, let's say, in that. When you gain the realization, you will know that. Some of you, when you have very strong sense of impermanence, very strong sense of, let's say, samsara in terms of the pain and that we go through. You have this sense of, renunciation. Who do not want to renounce suffering? Tell me, correct? Everybody wants to renounce suffering. It's actually about that. Anyhow, so we need to build that base. Otherwise, how are you going to enter the Dharma? How are you going to take refuge? You will not take. Why would you take refuge if you don't have that very strong sense of the renunciation? The reason I am practicing Dharma goes to show that you have some sense of renunciation. It can be very mundane too, but yet, okay, if I ask you why you practice that, very, let's say, simple answer may be because we have problems in our life. So we believe that Dharma can help us, correct? That's actually renunciation, meaning like you want to remove, you want to renounce your pain, your suffering, your problem in life. It's not so much about enlightenment, but yet just for that you also need to, you believe that Dharma can help you. So you're taking refuge, so to speak, in the Dharma. You practice Dharma for that. And then slowly it becomes more about, liberation and less about mundane renunciation. Anyhow, so that. And then along with that, then bodhicitta is born. Okay, then view. So that's more about that. And now in the Vajrayana practice, for example, we usually say that the renunciation of the Hinayana, the bodhicitta of the Mahayana, and then the, devotion, we can say, or samaya of the Vajrayana. These are the heart of the path to enlightenment. Now, coming back to that, for example, when you practice Vajrayana, any Yidam practice, the way we can accomplish that is really the base of that is blessing, correct? Chinlap, blessing. But that blessing is born through that bond, through that samaya. When your samaya, two things are there. We have to keep that. We call dompa, tamsik. First one is dompa actually. You need to have a very pure, your commitment needs to be very, very pure. In the Vajrayana, when you receive empowerment, you have commitment, correct? Needs to be very, very pure. Secondly, then your devotion needs to be irreversible, unbreakable, irreversible devotion. Dompa and Tamsik. That Dompa, that Samaya, that Tamsik, if you have that, he said that alone is good enough for you to generate the Mahamudra realization. This is how the Guru Yoga comes into, into play actually. That's why the practice of the Guru Yoga alone can lead you to experience the Mahamudra realization, given that you have these two qualities completely and very purely intact. That is Dompa and Tamsik, okay, the commitment. Like we say that, okay, so it's so important. We really, really want to watch out for that tamsik, that samaya, that bond. It's so easy to break. It could be broken just like that. We need to be very, very mindful of that. The most mindful we need in Vajrayana. Without that ground of the samaya, Vajrayana realization and path cannot take place. Like, we say that Vajrayana path is like, it's like this example of a bamboo where you put a snake inside the bamboo. It has only two options. Either you go up or you go down, for example. This example you give, correct? It's connected with the samaya. In the, excuse me, in the all of the Vajra songs of our founding fathers like Marpa, Milarepa, Gambopa, of course Telopa, Naropa, they always make sure that students really understood the importance of the significance of the samaya, the tamsik. How many times you may receive empowerment instruction. If you lose that tamsik, there is really no much point. Yes, you here and there you may have some merit. That's about it. But concerning the realization, all of that, it will never come to you. You need to keep it so. So that's why the purification becomes so very important also. We really need to be very mindful of our behavior when it comes to our, let's say, guru, correct? Whoever your guru may be. Usually the guru is the one who gives you all the empowerment, all the instructions. It's connected, as we understand, it is connected directly to the Vajrayana, like I was saying earlier. So that's the guru part. But then you have something else like spiritual teacher, yes, Dharma teacher, but that's not the Vajrayana aspect. But still, it's very important. And among ourselves, to keep our harmony and peace is really also important, not just between the teacher and yourself. Of course, that's very important. But among our sanghas, let's say that one, so important. When there's something, when something breaks among the sangha, it really, really influences the whole mandala actually. That's why if you look at the history, all this split, all these things happened. It didn't happen only this time. It happened before too, even during Buddha's time. So we need to be very mindful of all that. It's not, okay, very important for you actually, for others. Otherwise, there will be no, really no, much benefit in terms of realization, in terms of renunciation, in terms of bodhicitta, all of that. If we want that, we need to individually, we need to really, really keep up our commitment, the Vajrayana commitment, and of course, the Vajrayana Samaya. So important among ourselves too, Sangha. You, okay, ordinarily speaking, ordinarily speaking, not so much Vajrayana connected, but ordinarily speaking or commonly speaking, when there is disharmony between people, then that interrupts the flow of the happiness, the joy, flow of the auspiciousness, correct? We actually know that. It's very simple logic. It's not a Vajrayana thing created actually. Between friends, correct? You have good friends. But sometimes then disharmony because of misunderstanding, because of something you see, you hurt someone's feelings, then there is this emotion that comes, that takes place, which dilutes you, which dilutes other, and then that creates the whole atmosphere. How can in that atmosphere of this delusion, this emotion, something good can come? It's very logical. How can we not know that actually? The reason we are going through that is because it's all in your mind because of that thing. So now you can say, let's say from and as an example, between me and the Yidam, and of course there has to be Guru. If something like that happened, how can any, realization, flow of the realization, flow of the auspiciousness, flow of the blessing, flow of the achievement can happen? It's interrupted. Am I clear what I'm saying? It's interrupted. You need to clear it. It's very logical, my friends. It's not like, rocket science, so to speak. Sometimes it seems like it's a rocket science. I actually don't know. We just say that how deep is the rocket science? It's just figure of speech, I'm guessing. For me, yes, I know nothing about that, so it's not a rocket science. It's very logical, very rational. You think yourself. Why between you and other people, why there's no harmony? You may say not friend, but that means there's something broken. And it is very true. Like we usually say when, okay, I'll not give that example. It's a, so, but the good thing about this is that there's this called, so the sogyong again, okay, there are two different meanings of the sogyong actually. One of the sogyong is for that, for the, now as we understand, there are three types of vows. The Hinayana vow of the seven liberation, Bodhisattva vow, and the Vajrayana vow, correct? All of them are seeing in terms of their commitment. So when, if it is absolutely broken, then nothing can be done about it. But if they are stained, if they are just damaged, you can do the damage control. So the way you do damage control is what we call as amending them, right? Through the purification. Yesterday, well, okay, like for example, uh, Akasha Garbha Sutra, Sai Nying Punto, yes, Akasha Garbha Sutra is very, very good to recover, to amend, especially the Bodhisattva vow, is what it says. And then we have, of course, the practice of the Vajra what? Vajrasattva, Dorjasempa, right? Vajrasattva. That's most well known. It's very, very powerful. And then we, as a Tibetan, as monks and nuns, we also do other practice, which is called, in Tibetan, we call it Tung Sha. It actually, you have it in your Mondo practice, no, in your Sojong book. It's actually called three hips, three hips. But then now it's named in the Bodhi Path centers in the States. They like to call it 35 Buddha because they're the names of the 35 Buddhas, you know. But the actual name is Tongsha, the purification of the downfalls. You know, there are three steps. That actually is very, very powerful. Tongsha is very powerful, so we can do that. And in general, prostration is very, very powerful. We all know that. So anyhow, it's important, really, you know, especially like it's days on. So now let's say you decide to take Sojong vows, you know, on your own during the auspicious days like full moon, new moon. This is when you can do this practice. It's very important to do that, really. And then anything in between that we may have sort of, you know, accumulated any kind of negative karma obscuration will be removed with the power of the Sojong vow, especially with the power of the purification. Because let's say you do 35 Buddha practice. So I'm saying this because these really are very important, okay? Because many of us, almost every one of us may have received empowerment and all that, you know. We need to know that it's not about receiving it, it's about keeping it. Anyone can receive it, but you need to keep that intact. Receiving is not a big deal, keeping is. You need to keep that intact. It's very difficult for us with this mind, really. That's why this teaching on mindfulness becomes so important. Like Nagarjuna says in a letter to a friend, uh, mm, okay, he says that mindfulness is the sole path to enlightenment. If you lose that mindfulness, you lose everything. Tempa nyampe chukinjik parjur. It's a very beautiful line, and it's very true. Again, it's very rational, really. Whenever you are disturbed, whenever your mind is disturbed, and whenever your mind is, then that's when your mind is very, very distracted. You don't have control over your emotions. Because of that, we make so many mistakes, even though you don't really want, intentionally, you may not want to do it. But our emotions, our confusion overpowers us, and then we just end up doing a lot of bad things, even to the extent of hurting oneself, to the extent of even, you know, killing oneself. Who wants to kill oneself, right? In generally, so to speak. But yet we know there are people, why do they do this? This is because of lack of that mindfulness. So that's why not just in life, mindfulness is so important. On the path to enlightenment, that is the key actually. For your meditation, for your improvement, for everything, we need that mindfulness. We call Tembanyir anyways, so that these are all linked, as you can see. If I have good mindfulness, then I will be able to manage my conduct. It all comes down to discipline, or all boils down to conduct, as you can see it. How I conduct myself, my body, my speech, my mind. Can you see that? So we need that. Therefore, Asanga, Togme Asanga, yes. Somehow today, anyways, Asanga says in Abhidharma Kosha, what's the word? Tsulne Töda Samde. Yes, it's Tsulne Töda Samdembe. It says by keeping a very proper moral conduct, then you practice by learning, reflecting, meditating. It means meditation. It says that the meditation is born when you really, really keep up your conduct, your behavior. To keep up our behavior of the body, speech, and mind, we need mindfulness, correct? Three pitakas, or three trainings, we call lapasum. It's the entire teaching of the Buddha, but they are all connected. For example, the very first one from three training is training in moral ethic, correct? You train in moral ethic, you perfect that will lead you to the second training, which is training in samadhi, meditation absorption. It means meditation absorption of any kind cannot be achieved if you have not accomplished the first training. Now, with the second training, training in meditation absorption, samadhi, you can see that it will lead you to the third training, which is training in vipassana or pragyana, Sherab we call it. It means it will lead you to the realization, insight into the emptiness, actually. So the vipassana meditation will come along. This is from the point of view of a gradual order. Individual who needs this very gradual path, most of us, we do actually. We're not able to straightly enter into vipassana. So therefore, we need to train into something that can really help me to experience, calm body meditation, shamatha. That would be the first step, which is training in moral conduct. So then this is how the whole, vow, like the Vinaya vows of the lay people and ordained people comes into being. And discipline is actually about that. So therefore now you can see how then this earlier on when I talked about, okay, your lunch is at what? 11:30. Earlier on when I spoke about Dompa Tamsik, Dompa, the commitment, Tamsik, the Samaya, now you can see it's actually connected with this also. So at the end of the day, It's a very simple thing we need to do. That very simple thing is we need to be mindfulness. We need to practice mindfulness in everyday life. It will help you in your everyday life. It will help you to, to really, you know, to really furnish your, understanding of the Dharma. It will deepen your meditation just by trying to practice the mindfulness. Without the ground of the mindfulness, there is no way to do that at all. So you see how simple it is actually. That mindfulness is not just needed for the everyday life, but actually it will then transform into the path to enlightenment. All of the higher qualities of the wisdom of realization is born from that one simple thing called mindfulness, and that grows. It's a very gradual growth you will experience on your own. All we need to do is that we need to literally, you know, tell ourselves that I need to pay attention. I need to pay attention to my conduct, to my behavior, the way how I speak, the way how I physically behave with people, the way how I think. Most importantly, the way how I think. It's that simple actually. So it's not exact rocket science. Very simple. We start from there. Then we establish the perfect ground. We don't have to worry about this other thing that I spoke about earlier on. They are all result. The four kinds of Mahamudra, they will come along if we did this. They will not come along if you don't have the foundation of this mindfulness. All the samaya, all the other, the harmony that we need, in our mind, all of that really depends on that. That's how we are protecting, correct, our treasure. Our treasure is none other than these qualities of the mind. That's what we need. That's our treasure. That's why it's called precious. Emotions are not precious. How is anger, jealousy is precious? It's something we don't need actually. So we need to keep that. Mindfulness is the only way to keep them up, bring growth to them. All right. I need to stop here, but before we finish, so all right, when we in the morning when you take Sojong vow, those of you who are new, of course you go through the book, but when you are taking the vow itself, when it comes to that taking vow, you remember you do 3 prostrations. And then when you sit down, actually you do not sit down. It can, if you read the book in the very beginning in English, actually it's all very well explained. So you kneel on your right hand, right, not hand, right leg, right? Actually, it's very easy if someone of you can. Yes, and then generally we hold our hands like this. So it would be like this. It's very not a very good example, but we do this, and then until you finish your whole set of the vow. It's from the vow, not in the very beginning. Okay, and then when you say that 3 times. You take the vow 3 times. Here, actually, you repeat after the Lama. If he says, repeat after me, because many of you are new, so you do repeat after him 3 times. You can just, watch him, the way he is sitting, is sitting or not, how he is, kneeling, you kneel that. It's out of respect, and then you take that vow 3 times. And in the end, again, you do 3. So before you take the vow, you do the prostration. After when you're taking the vow, you do 3 prostration. Those are easy because the Lama himself will do, and you just follow, right? That's That's one. The other thing about lunch, actually. So when you go to the lunch, there are two things, right? The two kind of offering. The first offering is the fresh. You do not eat, okay? You will bring your food, you will sit, but then you will chant. There are chantings. You will finish the chanting to. Usually we do together. So I'm saying together because we do it together. But I think you guys do it individually. You're reading it. So you sit down and then you will chant the lunch prayer. And then you will take out a fresh part of that, okay, and place it on a plate. If you have a plate, that's fresh part. That actually is an offering to the Buddha, to the Sangha, to the Dharma. That's the fresh part of this. After when you finish it, then we also make another offering to the spirits. That offering is left over. So you must have something a little bit left over. And then you put that, you don't mix them. You put that separately in another plate. And that you will have there will be some sign, I'm guessing. You all will throw it together in that one particular plate. I think there's a sign or something. It's very simple. And then you just follow that. So it's very simple. In the first, you sit down and then you do your lunch prayer and then you will have this fresh pot. You do not want to eat before, okay? So you will put some food on a plate and then you finish your lunch. You can enjoy your lunch. But you do not stand and go somewhere. Okay? Once when you sit, you need to sit. You will be served, from what I remember, you will be served on your table. Those who have taken vow. You just sit until you finish your lunch, and then you close that with the remaining part of the prayer. I don't remember myself, but the remaining part of the prayer. It's very simple. Also in the book, it's very simple. uh, So that's very much what I remember. Number wise. Okay, I got it. She wants me to point out the page number. Okay. What number? Okay. 67. Correct. Lunch prayer 67 Sechi Chopa. It actually means the offering of the fresh part of the meal. So that's why we have here as it can see, as we can see that we pay homage to the protector and dot with great compassion. Gombo tukje che denpa, tamje chenpa tempa po, sunam yunten gyatsu tejen shikla chakse lo. Okay, so Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, short form of that. You make offerings to them, then you finish the whole, there's a mantra, all of that. And then after this word in the end, which is page 72, it says, partake in the fruition of great vehicle. Tekshen de ucho bersho. Okay. It just means that, okay. It doesn't matter. This is when, after this point, then now is the time when you enjoy your lunch and you finish your lunch. And then when you're done, then you some leftover on a different plate. And then this other thing it says is on page 73. Dedication prayer of the leftover food to the lower spirits. Spirits. Okay. To the spirits. There are many of them. Uh, that's it, right? So let me, okay, explain you a few things. Not explain, but share. Jungpo. uh, I'm thinking, should I say it or should I? All right. So don't take it literally, but there are guys around here that you guys don't see, but they're listening to us, to the Dharma, and then they will also come to the lunch. They may also need your lunch, spirits, Jungpo. Like we have this called, some of the hungry ghosts, are also spirits because they don't have a body. They are not exactly able to eat, but somehow we make them offering. And then there are also beings who are not really hungry ghosts, but they still have not been able to really born as a human being or any other. So they're stuck. Let's say they're stuck in this sphere. So we make offerings to them. Actually, this is why we have this smoke offering. It's going to be too long to tell anything, but anyways. But it is true that there are many Gandharvas in Jungpo. Anyway, these spirits, uh, beings who are very, very, poor and actually very poor, very weak, who come upon the view, but they're round, around. uh, so, anyways, but there are also another story to this. The reason we do it actually. So in your mind, it is also a generosity, the practice of generosity. Both are practice of generosity. When you are making this offering, it is part of generosity, as you can see it, right? You are offering the food. It is a very good generosity. So you, in your mind, you think that I'm giving this to all the beings, who need it, who are hungry, who are thirsty, mainly that, who are hungry and who are thirsty, and who do not have access to food, to drinks. I'm making this offering to them. This is the motivation you keep. Okay. All right. So I think I will now stop here, but tomorrow then we will go through the book, and then I'll also take questions tomorrow. Okay. Today I think we'll just stop here. Nam dia tam che ziba nye to na nye pe dana che ga na che ba la tu pa ye se be an so le do re ge wan di ye ki wo ye ke se nam ye che zo zo se nam ye che le chung wa tam ba ke nye to ba re sho min ro lombo kuya ta chi sho yan la ya tu jo sang ge ta chi pa da la ti me tu che ta ve ko so tu che ta shi sho. Thank you. Have please enjoy your lunch, your day.